The Factional South-South Zonal Working Committee of the opposition People's Democratic Party has, at a meeting in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, approved the appointment of caretaker committees to oversee the affairs of the party in Bayelsa and Edo states for a period of 3 months, effective from Monday. Well, the Dan Obi-led faction, in a statement released by Etim Isong, Zonal Publicity Secretary, appointed George Turner, South-South Zonal Secretary, as the caretaker chairman for Bayelsa State Working Committee, and Nosa Ogeva as the chairman of the Edo State Caretaker Committee, with 13 other members. Well, it says the decision to set up caretaker committees for both states follows the dissolution of the state working committees in both states on account of various acts of gross misconduct by the dissolved executives, which are in clear breach of the party's constitution. Meanwhile, the Ima Ogidi-led South-South Caretaker Committee, recognized by the PDP National Secretariat, has described the action as laughable and unconstitutional. Well, joining me now for more on the worsening internal crisis in the main opposition party is our Director of News and Politics Editor, Sumner Sambo. Thank you for joining me on the set tonight. They say it's unconstitutional and it's laughable, but who is really laughing in the PDP? I mean, what's going on with the PDP?
Well, a lot of power play, and let me use the words of Chief Emmanuel Ugidi, who is the Deputy National Chairman, South-South, recognized by the PDP National Secretariat right now. He calls it the big boys. There's some big boys in quote.
Is the National Secretariat not divided as well?
Well,
is there one National Secretariat?
Well, there's one PDP that we know, but of course different, people, fighting for different positions within the party. Just like we have with the issue of the National Secretary, there are now 2 persons who are in charge of the position of Deputy National Secretary, Deputy National Chairman, South-South. So there's Chief Dan Obi, who emerged at the Calabar Convention, which was denounced by the Damagun-led National Working Committee. And then, of course, there's Chief Emmanuel Ogidi, who was inaugurated in acting capacity by the Damagun-led National Working Committee, which is the one that has now issued this statement, calling it laughable and, ridiculous and all of that. Well, it actually speaks of the crisis that we have in the party. And, of course, this Dan Obi-led Zonal Working Committee is actually one that has this, support from the likes of FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. And, despite the National Working Committee saying that they do not recognize that Zonal Working Congress, the Congress that produced these Zonal Working Committee members led by Chief Dan Obi, that nonetheless, as things stand right now, it's a very huge challenge for the party, because now you are having a situation whereby the Dan Obi-led Zonal Working Committee is putting in place caretaker committees to run Bayelsa State. I mean, Bayelsa, they have a serving governor there. And was that decision taken with the governor's consent?
Who's supposed to be the biggest party member of the PDP in the state?
Yes.
Or the highest party member?
I mean, there's a lot that's ongoing, and it actually tells you about some of the challenges that they have, because the governor right now is having issues with Nyesom Wike, and then because of that, they've been having clashes. And then this George Turner, don't forget, is planning to organize
a mass rally for the same Mr. Wike.
Yes, I mean, the weekend in Bayelsa State, and of course the governor has refused, saying that, look, that wouldn't happen and all of that, asking security agencies to also intervene. And now Dan Obi goes ahead to say, look, he is going to serve as a caretaker committee chairman for Bayelsa State. Now, what do you expect the governor to do? And then, of course, you also have another person being put, Nosa Ogeva, in Edo State. So what led to the 2 caretaker committees being put in place? Well, it's all power play ahead of 2027. And then, of course, forces within the party, in quote, big boys, as Chief Emmanuel Ogidi described them, trying to actually captured the soul of the party, especially in the South. And then this is coming, on the heels of some governors within the PDP in the South also endorsing President Bola Tinubu for 2027. And the failure of the National Working Committee to also ensure that it wields the big stick to quote those big boys who are causing problems. Because at every point in time, especially in the South, you will see that the zone is producing a lot of people who are engaging in anti-party activities. Whether it's a Nyesom Wike or some of the governors or some of these people that we see. And then because there's a refusal to actually wield the big stick through a disciplinary procedure, I mean, the issue continues to fester. So until the elders of the party come together, to be a big challenge for the PDP.
I'm afraid to ask, is this the beginning of the end of PDP, or is this just the end of the PDP?
Well, the PDP is
because
the
we talk about positioning and posturing ahead of 2027, where you hear governors endorse the opposition the governing party, where you see, I mean, active anti-party activity in broad daylight, and nobody does anything about it. You wonder, is the PDP really still here? Can we even call it a viable opposition?
Well, the good thing about the PDP is that it's a national party that's not owned by an individual. So even
it does look like an individual is running it.
Well, maybe a segment. Unlike other political parties that can actually be, seen in the hands of one individual, the good thing about the PDP, actually, as an opposition party or a governing party while it was in power, is that the structures are strengthened. They are owned by different, segments of the Nigerian society. So unlike maybe if you look at the APC, you will say, okay, a Buhari or a Tinubu, gives instructions and then it just goes down directly. In PDP, the structures, the organs are strong to the extent that it's difficult. Yeah, individuals may manipulate them, but we do not see the extinction of the People's Democratic Party anytime soon. Because the structures are there, there are different people. It's just that some segments of the party may seem not to be working. But if they are able to get their acts together ahead of the next convention in December, and they are able to elect strong leaders, then even if they elect a wrong chairman, if the other members of the National Working Committee emerge stronger, I can tell you that they can easily tame the national chairman. So that's the good thing about the PDP. And this has come with the party because it's been rooted for a long period of time. So only the governors cannot control the party. And all the money bags alone cannot control the party. The presidential candidates cannot control the party. Not even the former presidents that served in PDP as presidents of Nigeria can control the party. So the structures are firm. All they just need to do is to ensure that between now and December, when they hold the next national convention, they are able to put in place strong disciplinary measures. But I don't personally see that coming because we've not seen that happening in the last 1 year. And then the presidential candidate of the party in the last election, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has not shown any will to be able to stand with party leaders to be able to correct some of the ills. So my thinking is that they'll continue to manage themselves until December, and then different segments of the PDP, the organs, will actually now produce the next people who maybe, if they have genuine love for Nigeria, genuine love for, politics, and then, of course, democratic governance in the country, we have the patriotism to be able to lead PDP into the next election. Why? It's important, even for the All Progressives Congress, for the PDP to be alive. Because if there is no formidable opposition, the APC will not enjoy what it means to be in power. Because they only enjoy it. And they have to care. Because, democracy actually stands on a tripod. Rule of law, opposition, and then governing party. So if you are just there as a governing party and you don't have someone to check you, then of course you trample upon the rule of law, and then the whole roof will cave in on you. But if you have a formidable opposition, and that's why in parliamentary practice, you see where they will call, an opposition, like when we used to have the Queen, right now we have the King.
Yeah.
In the UK, they'll say Her Majesty's loyal opposition or His Majesty's loyal opposition, because the opposition is to the people of the country. So the opposition, if we're able to have a strong opposition, it helps to create check and balances, it helps to provide alternative views, it helps to create alternative platforms. What if tomorrow the APC comes and says it's rejecting President Tinubu, it doesn't want President Tinubu to have the ticket of the APC? President Tinubu will have to look for another platform. It has happened in other countries. We've seen that happening in Malawi and all of that, where a sitting president is denied ticket by his own party that brought him to power. And so that's why you need an alternative party. You need an alternative opposition platform that is strong, that's formidable, as equal as that of the governing party. So in the interest of democracy, the APC should not allow the PDP to die. Yeah. And then also, the president needs an opposition party that also gives him a coloration as a Democrat. You can only be a Democrat when you have opposition politicians you're dealing with. So if we continue to allow PDP to go on the trajectory that it's going and eventually it goes down, then we may be building a fortress in the APC that will make it to become too proud of itself, like the way the PDP became, and he said it will be in power for 60 years, and eventually Nigerians had to reject it. Because if you don't allow opposition to reign, then you're giving room for anarchy, and then after anarchy, what will happen? You even stand the risk of losing your government to anti-democratic forces, like the military.
But Sumner, they say you cannot cry more than the bereaved.
Yes.
If the PDP cannot put its own house in order, and you talk about
the accusations that the current government is not making or is not giving room for the PDP to put its house in order, just like other political parties. And that's what I'm saying. Because if the APC doesn't allow this party or other political parties to thrive, once the APC becomes an opposition party in the future, it's the same thing that will happen.
But perhaps we should be looking at the definition of the kind of democracy we practice. I mean, you have described democracy beautifully. It stands on tripods. But is that what we have in practical terms in Africa, in Nigeria in particular?
It's a work in progress. I mean, there's no way you have a perfect democracy. As long as we have politicians who put patriotism ahead, we'll continue to build that democracy. But when you have unpatriotic citizens who do not understand the concept of being in government, being in politics. I mean, politics is a beautiful thing. The way the system is designed is such that even when you are in opposition, you play the game beautifully and you're a government in waiting. But when you don't play the game very well, you look like, if you don't get appointments, then, you know, you are not enjoying what it means to be in government. There are two ways to have power. You have power while you are at the center, or you have power while you are at the fringe. The PDP is also part of the governing system of Nigeria. Why? Because they also control some fringes. There are about 12 to 13 governors at the moment, about 12 governors of the PDP.
Yes, 11, 12, yes.
Yeah, so they're also controlling a chunk of Nigeria. That's 1/3 of the country is being controlled by the opposition. That means they are also governing the country. And then they also have a lot of lawmakers in parliament, the National Assembly. They have in the state houses of assembly, they have elected local government. So that is the beauty of it. That is not only a one-party state. And that's why we keep saying one-party state leads to destruction. Because you don't have constructive opposition, you don't have alternative views. And in democracy, there must always be a party in waiting that will take over the next government, because a time is coming where Nigerians will definitely get tired of the APC, whether in the next election cycle or the next 2 or 3 or 4. And the thing is that it happens. People get into power and they become very arrogant, like the PDP became very arrogant at some point.
And they learn their lessons in a bitter way.
Yes, they are learning their lessons in a bitter way. But lastly, on these zonal issues, the idea is that the party must wield a big stake. We have 2 zonal chairmen now in the South-South, Chief Dan Obi, Emmanuel Ogidi as acting, and then we have 2 national secretaries. Something must give way. In fact, even 3 national secretaries. Because the deputy national secretary is being asked by the PDP Governors Forum to act, while we have two persons contending for the position of national secretary. That tells you that there's a high level of indiscipline going on in the PDP. And if that is not curbed by a national disciplinary committee, they will only be wasting their time ahead of 2027.
Indeed, and many fail to see how there's still one PDP with all of this fragmentation.
Well,
but Sumner, Sambo.
Its structures are actually working.
Indeed.
That's a good thing that's going forward.
We watch and see what happens. Thank you so much, our politics editor Sumner Sambo on the news tonight.